Afternoon,
Hi,
everyone.
hello. Hi.
Welcome to our pre-match press conference to preview our game against Chelsea this weekend. We'll start off with Alan Irwin at Sky, please.
Afternoon, Frank.
Afternoon.
Good to see you. First of all, just how's the reaction been this week following the Merseyside derby?
Normal. The lads had a couple of well-earned days off. It was a big output in the game, physically from the team. And off the back of what was a disappointing result from a good performance, it's nice sometimes to come away for a couple of days, but the attitude remains the same, positive, determined. Lads are trained well. We're ready for the next game.
We talked about that a lot, haven't we? Attitude and togetherness. It really needs to come to the fore now in the final 6 games, but that was demonstrated from your view at Anfield as well?
Oh yeah, without a doubt. I don't think you could anyone could dispute that. If you watch the game, difficult game, you want to stop Liverpool having the spaces that they clearly want and have shown against Villarreal and Manchester United and Manchester City recently. We didn't give them many opportunities in the game, particularly the first half. We created opportunities ourselves. Some things you can't control in games that go against you, and you have to keep going, and the players did that.
Any comeback from the PGMOL regarding Sunday? I know you've had one apology already this season. Any sign of another?
Yeah, and no, I didn't expect there to be another one. I think to have 2 apologies in critical games against the 2 strongest teams in the country, that really, Manchester City cost us a point on the day, and Liverpool, who knows what that would cost us if we get a penalty and go 1-0 up, and that's hard to gauge, but they're clearly things that could affect you in a close relegation battle. So as the coach or as an Evertonian and as a fan who wants his team to stay in the league, those things are crucial to us, and they went against us.
So when you say you didn't expect one, were you just making a statement really from the football club more than anything else?
No, I'm personally, I didn't expect an apology, but I thought it was a penalty.
Still 6 to play. Each one is obviously huge in its own right. Chelsea on Sunday, does this mean even more to you, given your past association with them, etc.?
I don't think so. There are Chelsea is always a big part of my life. It was 13 years of my career as a player and 18 months or so as a manager. And nobody would expect me to talk differently about the club, but it doesn't feel that that's the important part of it this weekend. Certainly not for me. My only thought is Everton. My only thought was preparing the team to try and win the game, and that's what every person at Chelsea would expect me to do. And I'll focus completely on that.
We keep saying home games are critical, and results under yourself have certainly shown that too. And Everton have also won each of their last 3 home games against Chelsea. They certainly appear to be able to get motivated for this sort of game. Did you feel that as a player as well, coming here with Chelsea? As
a player, I'm not sure. It's different times. I don't think you can try and balance out. Eras gone by, especially my playing career. I know I felt, and I've said it before, coming to Goodison as a player, with the atmosphere and the intensity of the game can be a very difficult place to come. And that was just the story of coming here all the time as a player and manager. For me now, as I'm here, and we can think things that we can control, are making the atmosphere strong. And as players, we set the tone for that. So the players have done that very well for me in my time here so far at Goodison. We will have to do it again because of the level of Chelsea as a team.
Well, the fans appear to be getting up for it. Fan groups have got together to ensure you can get the backing. They're going to be lining the streets around Goodison Road for the arrival of the team coach, which is good to see. Yeah,
our fans are brilliant. The fans are passionate. It's their life. It's important the players understand that. I certainly do. And if we get together in this moment, then obviously it makes us stronger. And the fans are always there with us. And sometimes we have to stimulate them in the way we play, in the way our intentions are on the pitch. And that's what I liked about Liverpool last week, because the players defended each other in a tough environment themselves, and we need to show that in every game and ongoing. We need to make sure we tap into that. So I appreciate the fans doing that, and we also have to show our side.
You had quite a few missing last week, Frank. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Donny van der Beek, Ben Godfrey, of course, injured in the warm-up. Yerry Mina. How are they all?
Yerry's back in the squad. Yerry was more being careful with him because of his been out for a while and played the previous game a few days before. Ben's out and will be a few weeks out. So we would love to get him back towards the end of the season, but it will be a close call. Dominic's back in the squad. He's been training the last couple of days. And Donny's out. Donny's not fit, and nor's Andre Gomez.
Just on Dominic Calvert-Lewin, we have heard suggestions from various sources that he had been fit but omitted from the squad. Any comment
They're
around
not, they're not true. They're not true. It's the unfortunate rumour mill in football.
Don't believe your sources.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just finally from me, Tom Davis back in training, great to see. We're not expecting him to be thrust into the hullabaloo of a game against Chelsea on Sunday, but he must be delighted on you.
Yeah, very delighted because he's a great lad. I'm looking forward to working with him on pitch, and he's been on the training pitch with us now for a couple of weeks. So dedicated to the cause. It comes out of his veins. You can see it, and we just need to get him more training minutes, more hopefully game minutes, if we can produce things at the training ground for him, because it has been out for a while, and hopefully he can contribute in the final latter parts of the season. Is
he ahead of timescale in terms of a return? Because I think we were expecting him out for the season.
Yeah, I would say he probably is. Since I've been at the club, the possibility was that he could be fit for the last 2 or 3 weeks of the season. So I suppose we're on that kind of level, but he's worked very hard to get to that stage.
Thanks, Frank.
Thank you. Thanks.
Hi, Frank. You mentioned the word intensity there, and I wanted to ask you about the comparison of intensity of perhaps being a Chelsea player going for the league with 5-6 games to go, and what you're facing now, because it's often talked about being 2 versions of the same thing. What's your experience that you're experiencing for the first time now as a manager?
It feels very similar to me, and I think it's an individual thing in terms of how you handle pressure, and I've been very used to handling pressure. In fact, I'd have been upset to have a season without pressure, because it means you're not doing something as a player. I was fortunate to play in teams that were generally fighting at the top of the table, so the pressure remains very similar in those terms. Pressure should always be what you do when you get out of bed, how you can affect the day, how you can affect your training and your prep and the game. And for me, it's very simple. The situation is very clear. We have 6 games. We have to get as many points as we can in those 6 games. In that sense, it's in our hands for sure. And we have to handle that pressure, and that's what playing football is. We're very fortunate to play this game. We're very lucky to play a game we love as our job. Sometimes it puts you under pressure, and you have to handle the good and the bad. And if it's a tough moment, we just have to dig in.
The contrast might be, I suppose, that if you're at the top of the league, you might have a way of playing, a style, a philosophy that you stick with because it's got you there. But perhaps in this situation, you don't have that luxury. Have you changed in the course of these last few weeks what you think that you might have applied to the team but have had to rip it up because of the circumstances they're in?
I think most managers are like that. Some different people have different philosophies. Maybe one way of playing that they want to play, and they can recruit and train and coach and get to a point where it runs very fluidly. As a coach and as a squad. But when you come into a club halfway through the season, you have to compromise on certain parts of what you want in the long, big picture, and prioritise what's important now to get you the short-term gains, the short-term where you want to be. So yeah, there are things that sometimes I look at and think, I'd love us to be here, but now what's important is to make sure we're certainly here. And of course, I don't want people to think we're coming away from playing football by the fact that I keep talking about spirit and fight. Spirit and fight is the base, whether you're our position fighting to stay up or Liverpool's position trying to win the quadruple. It's the same thing. If you don't have spirit and fight, you're going to fail at both ends. So that's the important thing for us. And then the rest, playing football, all those things, yeah, of course we want to play well.
And just finally, we talked a little bit about the City game and the frustrations that there were. The way that you performed then, and perhaps in the Manchester United game as well, different results, but performances that I think you were pleased with both times. Do you lean on that when you go into a game like Chelsea, or is the prospect of facing Chelsea completely different?
Well, it's different tactically because of Chelsea, I think, and how they set up and how they play, and those things are always slightly different. But in terms of the basics of being really focused on your prep and understanding it's a game that will need concentration and focus from minute 0 to minute 90 something, is they are the important things in these games, and to implement that with discipline. And that's what we did at Liverpool throughout the game. And that's what was the important thing and the impressive thing from my point of view, looking at the performance. So yeah, it's nice the fact that we've done that before. We'll have to do it again. Thank you.
Thanks, Hugh. We'll go to Alistair McGowan at the BBC, please.
Thanks. I think also in addition to writing to the PGML, the FA were kind of looking at your comments after the game as well. I just wondered whether you'd heard anything about those comments or anything from the FA so far.
No, they wrote to me. I wrote back to them. And at that point, I haven't heard any further.
So you've had a communication with them as well?
Yeah.
So do you know if they're going to be charged or anything like that?
Don't know that.
Okay.
Don't know that.
Fine. And obviously that was around Anthony Gordon's claim for the penalty.
Mm.
Been a lot of debate about him and whether he goes down too easily or not. I just wondered whether you thought that was the case, and also whether you'd spoken to him about that at all.
I don't think it's the case. I think Anthony Gordon's booking was his first in his senior career for simulation. Someone will check me on that maybe, but I know that's what I've been told. If you're looking at attacking players in the league, forward players, fast players, players that change direction very quickly, and you go through the league at those players and look at them if they change direction, and then the defender sticks their leg out and makes contact, I think you could probably go back and find a lot of clips that look exactly very similar to the first half incident. Whether it's a penalty or not, I'm not going to sit here and go, that's a stonewall penalty, but there's definitely a contact. And the second half one is a penalty, in my opinion. It won't be in everyone's opinion, but in my firm opinion, it's a penalty because Anthony was ahead of the defender. The defender stepped on his foot and gave him a push, not a big one, but one at pace to knock him over, and we didn't get a penalty for it. So my answer to the first question is, none of us in this room run as quickly as Anthony or change direction as quickly as him, and at that speed, lots of wingers will have incidents in and around the box. So I think it would be unfair to put that on Anthony. He doesn't feel it. He's a dedicated boy, just wants to play well for this club. I played in the game for a long time. If I changed direction, maybe not as quickly as Anthony, but if I changed direction and there was contact, you would go down. That happens. That isn't simulation. That isn't diving, as far as I'm concerned. And that has happened for years and years. Every player, English players, foreign players, Premier League players, Championship players. And the fact is that there's a debate about it happening in the first half against Liverpool. But the thing that for me was the most definite thing in that game was the penalty that should have been given in the second half.
How has he been this week? Have you sort of, obviously there's been a lot of debate. I'm sure not. I think he put some social media posts as well. But how has he sort of reacted to the
boy's a human, and Anthony's human. And I think when you get across someone, it's a foul. You want a penalty because you care. He loves playing for the club. I feel for Evertonians who travel to Anfield and who have to go for a beer after the game when they're friends that are Reds, and they know that the game was there for us to go 1-0 up, which changes the face of it. So I feel sorry for Evertonians there, because on the bigger picture than that, it also could affect what happens to us this season. There might be lots of reasons for the position we're in, but the reality of definite decisions that happen that go against you in big games against big teams, they can affect you in points. With Anthony's position in terms of Anthony is a great kid, one of the greatest young attitudes I've seen in the game. He's very similar. We're playing against him this weekend. Very, very similar to Mason Mount. Very similar in his attitude, his application, his talent levels, and he's fine this week. He's determined, is what he is.
And just last of all, I know obviously there's a few games to go, but obviously Everton in the relegation zone now. If the worst came to the worst, would you stick around next season if Everton go down? Would you want to bring them back up from the Championship?
I don't want to get drawn on that question, but what I will say is I've loved every minute of being at this club. And sometimes people from the outside ask me, because of the position we're in, you enjoying it? How tough is it? All the pressures of it? I absolutely love it. I've been welcomed incredibly well by the fans and supported by them. And I will do everything to get this club back to where I want it to be. So I'm not going to jump into the future and see what may be, because it's not worth doing that and answering that question. But in terms of my dedication to this job, I'll absolutely give it everything for as long as Everton want me here and I can get them to where I think we can get to.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alistair. We'll go to James Mountford at Radio Merseyside, please.
Frank, are you like other supporters? Do you go through the fixture list and go through Burnley's games and everyone else's games and sort of look where you can get points here and there?
Yeah, I think it's unfortunately very difficult not to do that, and I think you do it, but you understand at the same time, particularly when you work in the job, that it doesn't really matter too much. We went through the last 3 fixtures we've had. Manchester United, probably people would say that we're underdogs. Leicester, possibly underdogs. Liverpool, certainly underdogs. And the way we competed in the game, it could have gone a different way. So I think that is a slight waste of time in a way. We just have to focus on the next one in front of us.
You've won 7 games at home this season. That's more than any other team in the bottom half of the table. So how much rests on Chelsea and the other 2 home games you've got?
A lot, but we have to improve our away form as well to try and get results away from home. But a lot, we have to continue with the attitude and the application at home and the way we played. Nothing's granted, so it's really hard to sit here and predict. I'm certainly not sitting here saying we'll be fine at Goodison, because we've been fine at Goodison. Every game that comes along is another challenge, and we have to be up for the challenge, and Chelsea's a big challenge.
And just on Chelsea, what have you made of them this season, and does it give you any advantage, the fact that they played just last night?
That's a tough one, because we've probably gained and suffered in that scenario in different ways. We played Manchester United after playing at Burnley on the morning kick-off, and we won the game. We played Leicester after 10 games, and we were a bit sluggish in the first half. I don't think that directly relates. Chelsea are a fantastic team. I know them very well. I work with the majority of the players there, so I know the qualities they have, and yeah, they're a very good team with a fantastic coach. Thank you.
Thanks, James. Are there any further questions in the room, in the open section, or on Zoom at this point? No? Okay, we'll move on to the daily newspapers now, please, in the embargo.